Luma, the firefly that shine like the sun. Once upon a time, in the heart of a lush and whispering forest, there lived a tiny firefly named Luma. She was not like the other fireflies who were content with their soft, flickering glow. Luma had a dream so grand that it filled her heart with longing every night. She wanted to shine like the sun, to be the brightest light in the sky, so radiant that even the stars would envy her. One evening, as twilight stretched its golden fingers across the sky, Luma fluttered above the tall grasses, weaving between leaves and flowers. The other fireflies had begun their nightly dance, twinkling like tiny stars among the trees. "Luma, come play with us," called a friendly firefly named Brim, his glow pulsing cheerfully, but Luma shook her head. "Not tonight, Brim. I need to find a way to shine brighter than ever before." Brim chuckled. "You're already bright, Luma. We all glow in our own special way." But Luma wasn't satisfied. She wanted more. She wanted to be the brightest. As she wandered deeper into the forest, a gentle breeze carried the scent of honeysuckle, and the leaves rustled with secrets only the night could hear. Luma skimmed over a pond, watching the reflection of the moon ripple across the water. Then, just as she turned to leave, something caught her eye. A glimmer, a sparkle, a golden glow, unlike anything she had ever seen. She darted toward the source and gasped. Nestled in the petals of a delicate bluebell flower was a single, perfect dewdrop. But this was no ordinary dewdrop. It shimmered with golden light, pulsing softly like the heartbeat of the sun itself. Luma's tiny wings fluttered excitedly. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "If I carry this, I will be the brightest firefly in the whole forest." She hovered closer, gazing at the radiant droplet. The golden light reflected in her wide eyes, filling her with wonder. Carefully, she reached out with her tiny legs and cradled the dewdrop. It was warm against her touch, humming with a strange, magical energy. The moment she lifted it, a golden glow spread around her, wrapping her in light. She gasped in delight as her reflection in the pond below shone brilliantly, her small form now carrying the warmth of the sun itself. "I did it!" she cried. "Now, I will shine brighter than the stars." Excited to show the others, Luma turned and flitted back toward the clearing. But as she flew, she noticed something strange. The dewdrop was heavier than it looked. She had to beat her wings harder to stay in the air. "It's fine," she told herself, adjusting her grip. "It's just a little extra weight. I can handle it." But the farther she flew, the more she struggled. Her wings, once swift and light, now strained under the burden of the glowing droplet. Her flight became uneven, dipping and rising in awkward movements. By the time she reached the gathering of fireflies, she was panting. The others noticed her strange flight and turned to look. "Luma, what are you carrying?" asked Brim, his glow flickering in curiosity. "It's a magical golden dewdrop," Luma announced proudly, though her voice was slightly breathless. "With this, I'll shine brighter than the sun." The fireflies murmured among themselves, blinking in surprise. One of the older fireflies, a wise one named Glint, flew closer and peered at the droplet. "It is indeed beautiful," Glint said gently. "But Luma, why do you need it? Your own glow is already special." Luma frowned, tightening her hold on the dewdrop. "No, it's not enough. I want to be the brightest firefly in the sky. This is my chance." Brim exchanged glances with the others. "But Luma, you look tired. Are you sure this dewdrop isn't too heavy?" Luma shook her head stubbornly. "I can handle it," she insisted, though deep inside, she wasn't so sure anymore. She forced herself to smile and lifted the golden dewdrop higher, making its glow shine across the clearing. "Just wait," she declared. You'll see. Soon, I'll be the brightest firefly in the whole world." And with that, she flitted away, determined to prove herself. But as she flew, her wings ached, and doubt crept into her heart. The golden light was beautiful, but was it truly hers? Would it really make her special? She pushed the thoughts away and held on tighter to the golden dewdrop. Tomorrow, she would show them all. Luma soared through the cool night air, the golden dewdrop glowing warmly in her grasp. She imagined how the other fireflies would admire her once they saw how brightly she shone. With this magical light, she would no longer be just another tiny firefly. She would be the brightest in the entire forest. But as she flew, the weight of the dewdrop pulled at her tiny legs. What had once felt like a small, delicate droplet now seemed heavier with every beat of her wings. She ignored it at first, determined to carry her newfound treasure no matter what. "I can do this," she whispered to herself, tightening her grip. "I have to." But the night was long, and the golden glow, though beautiful, was beginning to feel like a burden. Just as she reached the tallest tree in the clearing, she paused to rest on a sturdy branch. She let out a weary sigh and tried to catch her breath. Her wings ached from the extra effort, and a small doubt crept into her heart. Was this golden dewdrop truly making her special? Or was it only making things harder? Before she could think too much about it, a familiar voice called from below. "Luma!" Brim fluttered up to join her. His soft, natural glow pulsed in the dark, like a tiny lantern swaying in the wind. "You look exhausted. Are you sure carrying that thing is a good idea?" Luma forced a smile, though she could still feel the strain in her wings. "I'm fine, Brim," she insisted. "It's just heavier than I expected." Brim frowned. "Then why don't you put it down for a while?" Luma's grip tightened around the dewdrop. "No. If I put it down, I won't be the brightest firefly anymore." Brim blinked in surprise. "But Luma, you already glow beautifully on your own. You don't need that dewdrop to be special." Luma hesitated. Deep down, she wanted to believe him, but she had spent so long dreaming of shining like the sun. How could she give up now? Before she could answer, another firefly, a gentle one named Mira, fluttered toward them. "Luma, I've been watching you," she said kindly. "You look tired. Let us help you carry it." Luma shook her head stubbornly. "No, I have to do this myself." "But why?" Mira asked softly. "Why do you need to be the brightest?" Luma opened her mouth to respond, but the words caught in her throat. She wasn't sure how to explain it, not even to herself. Just then, a strong gust of wind rustled the treetops, sending leaves dancing through the air. Luma tightened her grip on the dewdrop, but the wind was too strong. It tugged at her tiny body, and before she knew it, she was tumbling through the air. "Luma!" Brim and Mira cried out, rushing after her. Luma flapped her wings desperately, but with the heavy dewdrop in her grasp, she couldn't steady herself. She spiraled downward, her glow flickering as she struggled. Just before she crashed into a patch of soft moss, she managed to slow herself down enough to land safely. Brim and Mira landed beside her, their tiny faces filled with concern. "Are you okay?" Brim asked, helping her up. Luma sat up slowly, shaken. The golden dewdrop still rested in her grasp, but now, instead of feeling powerful, it felt like a weight holding her down. Mira tilted her head. "Luma, is this really making you happy?" Luma looked down at the dewdrop, watching its golden glow shimmer in the moonlight. She had thought that holding onto it would make her feel special, but now all she felt was tired. She thought of how easy it used to be to fly, how she used to dance through the air with her friends without struggling. But now, all her energy was spent carrying this one thing, trying to be something more than what she already was. Brim nudged her gently. "You don't have to prove anything, you know." Luma bit her lip. "But what if I let go, and I'm just ordinary?" Mira smiled warmly. "Luma, you were never ordinary. Your glow has always been special, and it's yours. Not borrowed from a dewdrop, not copied from the sun, just yours." Luma looked back at the golden dewdrop, feeling the warmth in her tiny legs. She had thought it would make her shine brighter, but now she realized it wasn't her glow at all. It was just something she was carrying, and suddenly, she wasn't sure if she wanted to carry it anymore. She held the dewdrop close and looked at her friends. Maybe I need to think about this." Brim and Mira exchanged hopeful glances. "We'll be here no matter what you decide," Brim said. As Luma stared at the golden glow in her hands, a new question filled her mind. If she let go, what would happen? Would she really lose her shine? Or would she finally be free? For the first time that night, she wasn't so sure. The cool breeze of the night whispered through the trees, carrying the scent of wildflowers and fresh grass. Luma sat on a soft patch of moss, holding the golden dewdrop in her tiny hands, its glow flickering dimly. She could feel the weight of the magical dewdrop growing heavier with each passing moment. But more than that, she felt a sense of weariness she hadn't known before. She had spent the whole night flying with the dewdrop, struggling to maintain her flight as her wings tired and her glow began to fade. The golden light was beautiful, yes, but it was no longer the bright, radiant beam she had hoped for. Instead, it flickered weakly, much like the tired pulse of her own natural glow. Luma gazed up at the sky, her heart sinking. The other fireflies were still dancing in the distance, their own lights twinkling like little stars. They didn't seem to struggle at all. They shone with ease, their lights as natural as the stars themselves. For a moment, Luma envied them. She had wanted to be the brightest, to be the one who stood out. But now, with the dewdrop growing dim in her grasp, she wasn't sure what she was trying to prove anymore. "What have I done?" she whispered to herself. She glanced down at the dewdrop. Its once golden shine was now pale, almost gray. The golden light that had made her feel so powerful was fading, slipping away like the last rays of a setting sun. Suddenly, she heard a voice from behind her. "Luma?" She turned to see Brim flying toward her, his light still shining brightly. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice filled with concern. Luma sighed and nodded, but her heart wasn't in it. "I thought the dewdrop would make me shine brighter, but now, I don't know." Brim hovered beside her, his wings fluttering gently. "The dewdrop was never meant to make you shine brighter, Luma. You're already glowing. I see it in you every night." Luma's wings drooped as she looked down at the fading dewdrop in her hands. "I thought if I could be brighter, maybe I would finally be special. But now, I don't feel special at all. I just feel tired." Brim landed softly next to her. "You don't need to be brighter than anyone else, Luma. You only need to be yourself." Luma blinked, her heart heavy. She stared at the dewdrop for a moment, its golden light barely visible. The idea of being just herself, without needing to prove anything, was a thought she hadn't considered. All this time, she had been so focused on outshining others that she forgot about the beauty of her own natural glow. "I don't know if I can let it go," she whispered. Brim smiled gently. "Letting go doesn't mean you're giving up. It just means you're choosing to be free." Luma looked down at her glow, which had become faint and dim. She felt it pulsing softly in her body, a gentle, steady warmth. It wasn't as bright as the golden dewdrop had been, but it was hers. Suddenly, she realized something. This soft, glowing light was all she needed. She didn't need the dewdrop to prove her worth, and she didn't need to be brighter than anyone else. She just needed to be true to herself. But as Luma made the decision to let go of the dewdrop, she hesitated. She didn't want to waste what little magic it still held. So with a gentle breath, she placed the dewdrop on the ground beside her, watching as its golden light faded completely into the dark earth. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, Luma closed her eyes and focused on the gentle rhythm of her own heartbeat, the soft hum of her wings. She could feel her glow slowly coming back to life. It was a quiet light, like the first hint of dawn breaking through the night. What if I'm not as bright as I want to be? Luma asked softly, her voice trembling. Brim landed beside her, his light warm and steady. You are bright, Luma, just the way you are. Luma felt a tear form at the corner of her eye, though it wasn't a tear of sadness. It was a tear of relief, of finally understanding that she didn't need to be something she wasn't. She had always been enough just as she was. She looked up at Brim, her heart swelling with gratitude. Thank you, she said quietly. I think I'm starting to understand. Brim smiled brightly, his wings fluttering with joy. You've always understood, Luma. You just needed to believe it. As the two fireflies sat together in the stillness of the forest, the first light of dawn began to peek over the horizon. Luma's glow was soft, gentle, and yet it filled the space around her, a quiet reminder of the beauty that comes from being yourself. For the first time that night, Luma felt at peace. She didn't need magic or borrowed light to be special. She already was. The sun began to rise, painting the sky with shades of pink and gold. The first rays of morning light seeped through the trees, casting long shadows over the forest floor. Luma sat quietly beside Brim, her wings still, her mind at peace. The golden dewdrop that had once seemed so important now lay forgotten, its glow fully faded, absorbed into the earth. The air was cool and the sounds of the forest were waking up around them, chirping birds, rustling leaves, and the gentle hum of other fireflies beginning to return to their homes. But for Luma, the world felt different now. She no longer felt the need to rush or prove anything. I think I'm ready to fly again, Luma said, her voice soft, but filled with a new sense of clarity. She stretched her wings, feeling the familiar flutter of energy return to her body. Brim smiled, his tiny light brightening. I knew you would be. Your glow was never gone, Luma. It was always there. Luma looked up at him, the truth of his words sinking deep into her heart. She had spent so much time chasing an illusion of brightness, but all along, her true light had been inside her, steady, constant, and beautiful. As Luma lifted into the air, her wings beat with a new sense of freedom. She flew higher and higher, not to outshine the others, but simply to feel the wind rush past her, to enjoy the rhythm of her flight. Her light had returned, soft and steady, like the glow of a new day. And as she flew through the forest, Luma began to notice something she had never seen before. The other fireflies were glowing too, each one shining in their own unique way. Some glowed softly, like stars, while others were bright and flickering, each light different but equally beautiful. Luma realized that there was no need to compete or compare. Every glow had its own beauty, its own place in the world. And in that moment, she understood that it wasn't about being the brightest. It was about being true to herself and letting her own light shine in its own way. The forest around her seemed to welcome her newfound understanding. The trees swayed gently, the flowers bloomed in soft colors, and the other creatures of the forest smiled as they watched her fly. The forest had always been full of light, but now Luma could see it more clearly than ever before. As the day wore on, Luma found herself drawn to a clearing where the other fireflies were gathering. Brim and Mira were already there, their lights bright and steady, surrounded by the soft glow of their friends. Luma hovered beside them, feeling a sense of belonging she had never known before. "You look different, Luma," Mira said with a warm smile. "You're glowing." Luma chuckled softly. "I think I've finally learned something important." Brim tilted his head. "What's that?" "That I don't need to be the brightest to be special," Luma replied, her wings fluttering with joy. "I just need to be myself." Mira smiled and nudged Brim. "I told you she would figure it out." Luma laughed, her light sparkling brighter than ever. The golden dewdrop might have faded, but her true glow was now shining in full force. And it was a light that came from within, not from anything borrowed or magical, but from her own heart. As the sun began to set, casting a warm golden hue over the forest, Luma joined the other fireflies in the sky. Together, they danced in the fading light, each one shining in their own way, unique and beautiful. Luma no longer felt the need to stand out or be the brightest. She simply wanted to share her light with those around her, to be part of the natural beauty of the world. And so, Luma flew through the night, her heart light and free, knowing that she didn't need anything else to be special. Her glow was already perfect, just as it was. As the stars began to twinkle above, Luma looked up with a contented smile. She had found her place in the world, not by striving to be the brightest, but by embracing the light that was uniquely hers. And in that moment, Luma realized that sometimes the brightest lights are the ones that shine from within. Moral of the story: true brightness comes not from trying to outshine others or from seeking external magic, but from embracing who we are and letting our natural light shine. When we are true to ourselves, we are already shining brighter than we know.